The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Well, over the last 3 or 4 days, there's certainly been some wildly hypocritical hot takes on the apprehension and removal of Nicolas Maduro to face narco-trafficking charges in New York. All of those leftists who blamed Trump not being tough enough on Maduro, for being all talk on Maduro. They were going to be tougher. Why hasn't he gone in and taken out Maduro? That was their posture a few years ago. And now their posture is, how dare they remove the leader of a sovereign foreign country? Mm-hmm. So there's the pro forma hypocrisy of the left. And then there's sort of next level hot takes of the order of a snake eating its tail. So enters Serpent Head, James Carville, on with, professional anti-American agitator, which doesn't distinguish him from a lot of his MSNBC/MS Now colleagues, Ari Melber, that we have awoken some unidentified giants, and we better protect our backside now that we have done what we did in Venezuela.
It's not going to affect your life. In fact, it could very well adversely affect your life, because we're saying international order doesn't matter. Anybody could look, if it was legitimate to invade a corrupt and an attempted authoritarian nation, then we better get troops on San Francisco and Boston and all up and down the east and west coast, because we would be ripe for invasion if somebody wanted to overturn a massively corrupt regime, which is, in my opinion, which we have here right this minute. And I think it's unfolding right in front of us.
Is that right? So who's coming, Jimmy? I mean, of course, this is just the blithe ignorance you get away with on, MS Now and so many of the cable news and podcasts and so forth. It doesn't even take into account that Maduro had fallen out of favor with his fellow erstwhile Marxist narco-terrorist allies like Petro in Colombia and to some extent Canel in Cuba. In addition to all of the other complications about the idea that there's some force, whether a foreign national force or some extraterritorial force that is going to wreak vengeance in the name of Maduro. I take that about as seriously as I take the idea that there's a standing order for Danish authorities in Greenland to open fire were there a foreign incursion in Greenland without waiting for authorization from, the crown back in Copenhagen. Okay. Speaking of mindlessness, Megyn Kelly. I don't understand why some of these people have such standing among so many conservatives. I really don't. She was on Tucker Carlson's show, and she said this. She is not joining in support of Trump's operation to bring the fugitive named Maduro and his wife to justice. Why? Because she's worried about reprisals from Tren Aragua.
Did anybody anticipate that? I don't think so. Okay, Venezuela is not Libya. It's not full of a bunch of Middle Eastern potential terrorists, but it's not great Like, they've got a bunch of gangs down there who have zero problem killing Americans. Let's check in with Tren de Aragua. Let's check in with Laken Riley's family to find out whether they have any empathy for Americans. Doesn't seem so. And I don't know what faction of that group we're ticking off right now with our behavior.
So we should base our foreign policy on whether or not we upset narco-terrorist gangs like Tren de Aragua or MS-13? What are you talking about? Laken Riley was killed by a Venezuelan goon because of the left's open border policies under Biden, right? And that's changed, not only in terms of the security of our border, but in terms of the effort afoot to remove people who pose public safety and national security threats, as well as people who are just here illegally. I mean, but just that analysis is almost as ridiculous as James Carville's. I would really encourage people who listen to this show to try to separate the wheat from the chaff, including on the alleged conservative side. Honestly. Embarrassing. More on this. Pleased to be joined by Daniel DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities and a syndicated foreign affairs columnist for the Chicago Tribune and Newsweek. Daniel DePetris, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good. So do we have to worry about San Francisco being taken over by some unnamed foreign nation, yet to be named foreign nation, or should we base our policies on what narco gangs, what does or does not upset narco terrorist organizations?
Here's the thing about Tren de Aragua, okay? And I've heard this repeated ad nauseum over the last 3 months. The Maduro regime and Tren de Aragua do not have a concrete connection to each other. It's a figment of people's imagination, and the Trump administration has kind of cited this as well, and they were wrong. Tren de Aragua is a thuggish gang that extorts, people under its control. It peddles drugs, and it has franchises around the world. It does not take orders from the Venezuelan government. So,
yeah, but they could be upset. They could be upset because Maduro let them operate, and now they're going to, I don't know, launch some sort of attack in response to this. At least this is a concern of Megyn Kelly's, and she's a person that has a big following, so we're supposed to take her seriously.
Right. Well, I mean, I just think Megyn is wrong. There will be people upset in the gang, I'm sure, but the notion that this kind of group of thuggish individuals is going to take on Uncle Sam and the U.S. military in some sort of frontal assault is just nonsense.
All right. So let's so let's get to the serious matter for serious people. So how is the what's next coming into focus at this point?
Yeah, so a lot is up in the air. I think the Trump administration seems to be settling on stability over democracy, and I know a lot of people are kind of upset about that. There's an assumption that as soon as they pluck Maduro out of the presidential palace or wherever he was staying on that military base, the United States would hand over authority to Maria Corina Machado and her Democratic opposition group. And obviously Trump has decided not to do that for the time being. There was a lot of kind of shock and consternation among Venezuelan exiles about that decision. But I kind of view it in a different way. I think it was actually smart because Machado, as popular as she is with some segments of the Venezuelan population, does not have any support whatsoever within the Venezuelan security services. And you need their acceptance to, do a viable political transition. So Trump is basically trying to work within the system rather than build an entirely new one, which, of course, is what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense, too. I certainly understand the process. And I also have noted emphasis from Rubio and others with the word interim in describing Delcy Rodriguez and, the regime currently in place. So, they're making her sing for her supper. I mean, they're in addition to the the oil that is being extracted. There's also the demand was made for Chinese, Iranian, and Russian delegations to be ejected from Venezuela and not to do business with them. The oil embargo is being enforced. We saw that yesterday with the ghost ships that were taken by Coast Guard. So, it seems to me that I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a call for all the political prisoners to be released. I'd like to see food being provided by America to Venezuelans who have been starving. And we used to remember reporting from the D.C. press corps about Venezuelans that had to chase down stray animals for food. That's how bad the situation was under Maduro. That reporting has gone away, of course. But I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But it seems to me that the process is going to go in phases, and you need to ultimately at some point set the stage for an election, but set the stage for an election where if Machado or Edmundo Gonzalez or the collective of them take power, they're in a position to purge the generals and actually take control of the apparatus to change Venezuela's course.
I mean, yes, and it's going to take a very long time. Let's face it. I mean, Venezuela hasn't been a democratic state in a quarter century. All the democratic institutions that were alive and well and actually performed a pretty good public service are now beholden to the people that hold the machine guns, and that's Diosdado Cabello, General Vladimir Padrino, and in some cases Delcy Rodriguez, the interim president. So this is going to take a very long time, and I think Trump, in his New York Times interview this morning, kind of suggested it will take a long time. I think that's correct. I just hope the administration doesn't take Venezuela's problems onto its own shoulders. That's what I'm personally worried about. And right now, it's sort of up in the air as to whether that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, something else too. I mean, just because you're dealing with so much demagoguery and misinformation on this, in terms of the oil, since this is a particular focus of the detractors here, both Trump and Rubio have said that Venezuelan oil will be sold at market rates in the U.S. because the money will help the Venezuelan people. The Venezuelan state-owned oil and gas company said the same thing. It will benefit the U.S. as well as the Venezuelan people. And I make this point of emphasis because you have hypocritical pals like Chris Murphy running around saying they're proposing to steal Venezuelans' oil at gunpoint, and that is not what's happening.
Well, I got to say, to Murphy's, I don't agree with what Murphy's saying, obviously, but he does have a point in that it's an unusual arrangement, right? I mean, sure. At the same time, we're in an unusual circumstance. So the way I see it and the way the administration has explained it is they're going to sell Venezuelan oil in the marketplace at market rates. They're going to keep the money in U.S. Treasury accounts, and they're going to distribute that money to the benefit of the Venezuelan people. What that means, I don't know. I mean, the administration has been pretty unspecific about this plan, but that is the broad scopes of what the White House is looking at. And if executed properly, it could work. Who knows? People like myself looking at this from the outside in really have limited information to go on. So that's where we are.
No question. But you also still have, I mean, the administration still has tools at their disposal, even tools sans Congress, although I'm not necessarily excluding the concept of Congress and getting congressional authorization to do more and some of this silliness. But, Delcy Rodriguez, I suspect there's if the evidence against Maduro and his wife is compelling, I suspect there's similar evidence against Delcy Rodriguez. So all it takes is an indictment in South Florida or Manhattan, and she's the next target. And she has to realize that. And if she doesn't, I'm sure somebody would tell her, just in terms of demanding specific performance to deal with the kleptocrats for as long as you have to, until you can help facilitate some sort of popular transition at the behest of the Venezuelan people.
Yeah, it's a classic strategy of coercion. I mean, basically what Trump is doing is saying, meet my demands, and he has plenty of demands, and you went through them earlier. or else, the Venezuelan economy is going to be tanked again, and your personal security might be at stake. It's a classic strategy of coercion, and the United States does have a lot of leverage over Venezuela right now, and particularly the oil industry. So we'll have to see and wait and see if it works. Delcy Rodriguez is, known as somebody who's ideological, but she's also probably a little more pragmatic than Maduro ever was. She knows how to work the levers of power. It seems much more than Maduro did, and she's more competent as an administrator. So we should keep all that in mind as well.
And hopefully she learned the lesson. We don't want to see any rallies with you dancing to Bobby McFerrin's "Don't Worry, Be Happy." That's unseemly. We're not going to tolerate that.
Yes, that should be a rule for everybody on this planet, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to get your take on Greenland, too, just because I want to remind people, among some of the silly, overheated rhetoric around Greenland. Trump, in his joint address to Congress in March of last year, had this to say about Greenland.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep you safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. It's a very small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security.
So, he said it in a joint session of Congress, the de facto State of the State address last year. Probably wasn't kidding. People have short memories, so now it's back on the table. But all of this concern about some military conflict with Denmark and our larger NATO allies over Greenland, again, reached the silliness level such that Marco Rubio had to assure senators that he's looking more like to negotiate a financial deal. He's not looking to scramble SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, Marco Rubio is going to be, meeting Danish officials and Greenlandic officials next week, actually, on this topic. It seems like Trump wants to actually purchase the islands. That's the number one play here. The White House, of course, is leaving open the option of military force. That's upsetting a lot of Europeans who are aghast at the notion of using force against a NATO ally, which, of course, it is kind of a troubling thing to think about. But I don't think that's the administration's initial position. They want to purchase the island. If that doesn't work, they'll probably negotiate an agreement that gives the United States greater access to mineral rights there and probably more military base locations on Greenland, which, by the way, we already have a military base on Greenland for a long time. So the administration does not need to invade Greenland to get what it wants here.
Daniel DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities, syndicated foreign columnist at the Chicago Tribune and Newsweek. Daniel DePetris, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal